Good evening, Mr. Kant, sir. Thank you very much for your time and being here. So welcome you. Yes, sir. Welcome you to the closing ceremony of India at the 100. Yes, sir. So we'd like to start off with a virtual interaction where we'd like to explore some of the key initiatives that are currently being undertaken as in the form of India's G20 presidency. So, first of all, as you know, that visualizing India at the 100, the virtual event series that we did, which aimed to explore, the youth's perspective and visions and aspirations of how they visualize their motherland 100 years after independence. So my first question to you would be, sir, given your long experience in various critical roles, how do you visualize India 100 years after independence, especially in the next 25 years, the major strategic and economic fields considered?
So, if you look at it, India's share in global GDP was 24% at the eve of when we got colonized. In terms of per capita income, India's per capita income then stood at just about 1,162 in 1700. And the world average was much more. It was about 1,746. We were almost on par with the world average. 1,746, we were 1,162. But by the time of independence, by the time we became independent, India's share in global GDP had fallen to just 5%. From 24% to 5%. Per capita incomes had fallen to $985, while the world average had increased from 1,746 to 4,674. So per capita income had fallen, and Indian economy had been repurposed to serve imperial needs. Once we were dominant in global trade, the Indian economy was moved to serve the British needs. And the years post-independence, we were characterized by license guard and low growth rates, termed the Hindu rate of growth, and private enterprise was shackled and government was at the commanding heights of the economy. If you look at it, the years between 47 and 90, 43 years, our income roughly doubled to $2,000. But when the economic reforms in the 90s happened, growth started to accelerate. Incomes went from 2,000 to 6,500 between 1990 to 2020. In just 30 years, income actually trebled. So this has been the past history. So the more reforms you do, the more economy will grow. The more you grow on the back of private sector, the more your economy will grow. And we need more and more of reforms. That is important.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I do agree with you, the rich history that we've had and how the ups and downs that we've suffered as a nation. But once again, sir, that when you see India 25 years from now, what the Prime Minister has termed as the Amrit Kal, what do you see? Because in the event that we followed, the youth of the country pointed out climate change to be a very big issue. Some pointed out corruption to be a very big issue. Some pointed out population to be a very big issue. You mentioned per capita income, that also was pointed out to be a very major issue moving forward in the next 25 years, the inequality of wealth distribution. So what do you see as the most optimistic points for India and the most prevailing challenges for India in the next 25 years as we go ahead?
So, my view is that we have seen economies in East and Southeast Asia transform themselves within a generation. Japan was the first economy to grow in the post-World War II period, which many call the Japanese miracle. And the Japanese miracle was followed by the emergence of East Asian tigers, 4 countries with rapid growth and industrialization: South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore. And since 1890s, China has emerged. So, per capita income in Asia post-World War II were at the same level. In 1947, Japan's per capita income was 2,700. South Korea was 930. China 900 and India at 985. We were at the same level to Korea and China in 47. Now 75 years later, incomes in Korea are 7x that of India, and China 2.6x that of India in per capita terms. This reflects the importance of sustained economic growth. What is important is that despite impressive growth since 1990s, India still lags behind countries that were once peers, and therefore it's very important, very important that we accelerate the pace of growth. We grow at 9 to 10% over a long period, 3-decade period. Our aspiration to become a high-income country will only be met through sustained economic growth. So when Prime Minister is talking about, Amrit Kal, he's talking about sustained growth. He's talking about average growth of 9 to 10% over the next 3 decades. That has the potential to transform the face of Indian economy. And if that happens, then our per capita incomes will rise. We would become an upper middle income threshold by 2030-31 and attain a high income status between 2043-44. And therefore, sustained growth in terms of economy requires us to grow at very high rate to be able to become one of the 3 largest economies in the world. And this is important. We have to be ambitious, we have to grow at high rates. We have to, in the past 30 years, we have averaged a growth rate of 6.5%, but we need to take it higher to 9 to 10%. And that would lead to improving social outcomes, enhancing female labor force participation, leveraging technology, getting into sunrise areas of growth, sustainability, and the evolving role of the state they will be the key to realizing our aspirations. Secondly, if India has to grow, it will not happen without improving our social indicators. We have to improve that. It's a two-way relationship. India's lower income leads to poor socio-economic indicators, which in themselves are a determinant of income levels. And therefore, we need to raise our health standards, we need to raise our nutritional standards, we need to improve our education standards. Learning outcomes, health outcomes are very important. Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. That pretty much summarizes it out. Yes, sir, please.
Mr. Kant, as India's G20 Sherpa, could we please know, sir, your most comprehensive elaboration of India's G20 presidency?
Yeah, so G20 is very critical. We are the theme of One Earth, One Family, One Future. We are taking up the presidency during a very complex and challenging environment. The world today is faced with climate crisis, slowing progress in SDGs, COVID crisis, debt crisis, geopolitical crisis, issues around food, fuel and fertilizer. But with India's G20 presidency, we see these complex challenges as an opportunity for us to get the world to unite on acting upon these challenges and to drive global consensus. India is a G7 partner, a BRICS and a Quad member, the G20 presidency, also the voice of the global south, is in a unique position to offer lasting and meaningful solutions to collectively address global concern, acting as a bridge between developing countries and advanced economies. Our endeavor should be to ensure an inclusive, ambitious, decisive, action-oriented G20 presidency, and we need the support of all. The priority of India's presidency are technology transformation and digital public infrastructure, women-led development, multilateral institutions for the 21st century, food, fuel and fertilizer, accelerated inclusive and resilient growth, life, green development and climate finance, and accelerating progress on SDGs.
Yes, sir. I think those are, you pointed out very critical issues. So you mentioned that, definitely the COVID crisis, the climate crisis, the geopolitical crisis, but considering laying special emphasis on the geopolitical crisis that we are seeing, be it the Russia-Ukraine conflict or the Chinese aggression, how do you perceive as India's role in the global geopolitical tussle that is rapidly evolving?
So this is a multilateral forum. This is not here to discuss bilateral issues. We don't get into bilateral issues. Our objective will be to pursue our multilateral priorities and push.
No, sir, but in general terms, when you see, apart from the G20, when we see, how do you perceive as India's role in the, rapidly evolving global geopolitical scenario? Be it in Europe or in Asia?
No, we see the goal will enhance if we grow at high rates. The more we grow at high rates, the importance, you will play a critical role. You will also need to go digital, you will need to go green. India's presidency will focus on sustainability, climate change, green development. We will accelerate progress on SDGs. We will push for a unique leadership position. All this is critical. Our challenge will be to push for women-led development. We focus on inclusive areas. That will give you the power. Nothing else will give you authority and power other than good leadership.
Understood, sir, and that is very well understood, sir. So, you mentioned, sir, climate financing. You mentioned sustainable development. You mentioned climate change as the most critical issue, and even going forward, when you get to see these. So, I want to know is that we've seen a east and west, a global north and south divide when it comes to climate financing. How do you think, sir, India's G20 presidency, although we do have climate conferences also, COPs which are held every year, how do you think, so India's G20 presidency will serve as a platform to maybe somehow, lessen that divide that we see, and especially when India is perceived as the global voice for the developing world?
So the developed world, which has committed to giving $100 billion per year in 2009, has not lived up to it. We will press on the developed world that they should live up to their commitment. Secondly, many of the multilateral institutions were formed during World War II. They were post-Bretton Woods period institutions. They need to be restructured, they need to be realigned to do more of credit enhancement, to do more of blended finance, they need to do more of finance which is based on first loss guarantee.
Yes, sir.
All this is critical, and India will press for all this.
Mr. Kant, obviously you're a very experienced person in your field of work, and your journey definitely, I believe, has had its ups and downs. Could you please give us some advice that will definitely work for our stages of today?
Can you repeat that? I could not hear you.
Mr. Kant, I actually meant to say that in your various roles, previously as the CEO of the Niti Aayog, and now as India's G20 Sherpa, and being there actively at highly dignified offices in Indian bureaucracy, how do you, what has your collective experience been, and what would you like to kind of recommend or advise to the budding teenagers, especially, who one day aspire to be where you have been or currently are?
So my experience has been that whatever you do it with commitment, do it with motivation, do it with passion. Also, that we all have our ups and downs. It's a part of life. But we must have a big picture. Leadership is about having a big picture. Leadership is about changing the status quo. Leadership is about taking your team along. Leadership is about thinking big. Always think big for the next 2 decades, 3 decades. That is important. And always continue to have other interests other than your work. Look at reading, writing, gardening, playing. All this is very important in a long life. Okay? So this is what I have to say.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your time. We'll be having this soon. 2 days later, this will be telecasted to all our audiences and partner schools, and many of the young leaders of the future will be looking towards it. So I had a personal request, as a collective request from my organization, if I may. May I, sir?
Please.
Yes, sir. So the coming, the emissary, we are the world's first mass media network with global aspirations that is exclusively operated by teenagers. And so, I have been getting a lot of, requests from my team to, just try and maybe accomplish something in some possible manner. We could engage in the upcoming G20 and just get the opportunity to witness, how things unfold. so that, because many of our teammates and colleagues who are with us, they aspire to join the IFS one day or to be there in the Indian bureaucracy. So if you could, let us know of any particular possibilities of our prospective, engagement exploration.
We'll be very happy to involve you in Youth 20. We'll be very happy to involve you in, if there are women members, we'll be very happy to involve them in Women 20. You give us a detailed proposal, we'll be very happy to involve.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you very much.